For eons, people have come to this land of winding waters, attracted by the abundant natural resources. Forests and meadows teeming with wildlife, clear mountain streams and rivers laden with salmon and steelhead. I'm Jeff Ovison, a proud native son of Wallowa County, Oregon, and Executive Director of the Grand Ronde Model Watershed Program, one of Oregon's oldest watershed councils. It's our mission at the Model Watershed to bring together landowners, resource managers, and key diverse interests to initiate habitat restoration projects in the Grand Ronde and Imnaha subbasins of northeastern Oregon. And during the next half hour, you'll hear from two longtime Wallowa Valley families and about their efforts to restore salmon and steelhead habitat on their lands.
Sometime in October 1872, I started for Wallowa Valley. I had my mind on the big game and the fish. I had hooks, lines, muzzle-loading rifle, and a big dog all ready. We were in the meadows only a few days when I killed a buck deer and a large bear. We got 5 gallons of lard from the bear fat, so we had plenty of grease to fry the venison. That with fat grouse and fine trout for a change, and huckleberries for dessert, well, it looked as if nature had done much for us. We had meals good enough for the Queen of England or the President of the United States, but it was not too good for the common people, or for my hired men or myself. In October, I moved with my family of 4, my wife Annabelle, 2-month-old Charlie, and my 10-year-old brother Sam. It was not much of a home, and our belongings were few, but we were young, healthy, full of nerve and pep. We held to the theory that a poor beginning makes a good ending.
I have my great-grandparents' daily journals from 1893 to 1943. It gives me a window into their world, the roles that they all played, and what they were doing on the ranch on the same piece of ground that we're working on. And I know from living here and working here the sacrifices that are made to be on the land, what it takes to be a rancher, and how hard the work is and what we give up. And we have it pretty easy compared to what my great-grandparents and grandparents had. And still it's hard work.
Hush it yourself, boy. Goodness sakes, noisy.
So I know that at any time they could have sold out. And I know that they didn't. And so for the 3 generations ahead of me, that's what I know about their value system, that they valued this and they valued being able to pass it on. And as I said, it's one of the greatest gifts I could ever imagine.
My family has been involved in the valley for a long, long time. I never knew the great-great-uncles, but I knew my great-uncles quite well. And they had grown up here in the valley, and they told me about how the fishing was in the valley and how, it's just amazing with the amount. I couldn't comprehend the number of fish and things that they said, the number of salmon and steelhead and kokanee that ran in this river. It was just unreal.
And so all of these river bottoms, all of this good spawning country for the salmon, steelhead, everything else was picked up as private property. There's not good salmon or steelhead spawning country up here in our wilderness. It's all right down here. We are living in the best country.
One 135 years after my great-grandfather shot his first bear in the Wallowa Valley, Craig and I and our kids are raising Corriente cattle on the old homestead, the Six Ranch.
A friend of mine down in New Mexico had been running these Corriente cattle for team roping and bulldogging, and I have a little bit of a rodeo background myself, and I thought, well, let's get a few of those and see how it works. And now we've been strictly in the Corriente business for 21 years now, I believe. We have an arena over here where we break the cattle in, and we team rope here on the ranch quite a little bit. But team roping is based on an old way to doctor cattle, and it's one of the old ways to doctor cattle with ropes out on the range. And then as time went on and rodeo became more popular, it became one of the events in rodeo that came off the ranch. And one guy rides out, ropes the head, and then sets the steer up, turns him off, and another guy rides in, ropes 2 feet, and they stretch him. And then if you were actually working out on a range someplace, which we still do that here, you're ready to doctor them and do whatever needs to be done. And then people come here to practice that live closer to us, and we practice here, and then everybody gets together on weekends and has little jackpots and try to make a little money team roping.
I'm the 5th generation to live and work here. There wasn't ever a time when I wasn't contributing at whatever capacity I was capable of. Right now I'm going into the Marine Corps, and I signed an 8.5-year contract. I've been accepted into flight school and passed my flight physicals. I'm going to officer candidate school in October. I spent as much time down here as possible when I was a little kid. My parents used to get so frustrated because I'd just come up missing, and I don't know why they ever worried, because I wasn't ever any other place than right here. But this is where I spent my time, and if I wasn't fishing, then I was wandering around down here and finding these old river channels and learning about how this land used to be.
In the 20s, I believe it was, they decided to put a railroad through here. And they didn't want to put the railroad over the hill. They wanted it right up the bottom of the valley floor. Then they shoved the whole river all the way over against this bluff and channelized it all the way down through the valley here, which at the time it probably was a good idea, they thought, and probably worked out really well. The fish runs were outstanding. They probably thought there was no way that that would affect the fish runs because there was so many fish.
And it's easy to see where the river used to go in that piece. It's never been plowed or farmed, and so you can tell where that river used to be. And we started thinking about what it would be like if it could meander, slow down, and go like it used to instead of this straight, fast shot.
I was 8 years old, and We did some research to find out if it was possible, and my mom and I put together a proposal, and we found out that there was so much red tape and so many permits that we just had no idea how to acquire, that before long we gave up, and we realized that it was going to cost too much, that there was just no way that we could feasibly do it.
And then our neighbor down the river, Doug McDaniels, he had the same interests and values, so he picked up the project. And he pioneered it, really. He had to suffer through all the wrecks, and his project is really successful. As a friend and neighbor, we've been able to see the results, and that inspired us again. And he asked me one day when we were visiting, "Why don't you guys do that? I thought you were going to." And I said, "We'd love to." And he said, "Well, I'll make a call." And that afternoon, Grand Mountain Model Watershed called and said, "Would you be interested?" And we said, "Absolutely."
And then I just remembered the river as a boy. This river was full of trees and logs and big holes and washes here and there, and it ran all over the place, and it was fantastic fishing. After World War II, when they got the cats back, the bigger equipment back from World War II, they come in and start channelizing all these rivers. And in a place like this, they just put it over against the ridge here and shot it right straight down through here. And there was absolutely no character at all in the river. It was just one straight riffle, straight through. Here and there was a little spot to fish, but nothing that was very interesting to fish at all. It was also hard for the fish to stay in there because they just had to swim all the time. At least that's what I thought. You know, didn't know anything about fish biology or anything, but that's the way I thought.
In a lot of ways, he was ahead of the times in terms of doing this type of work, because I remember probably 12 years ago when he wanted to do another channel relocation project on another stream, and I kind of thought he was a little bit wacko. But,
Vance and I had a pretty testy relationship, but since this river project and things, he's top notch in my book. And he's designed a project here that I think has really got some character in it, and it's going to just keep getting better and better.
now we're doing exactly what he was talking about doing, years ago, and a lot of it was just the science hadn't evolved to the point that it is today, where people were comfortable with doing that kind of work. That it really, heavy equipment work and real serious channel manipulation. So.
And I will guarantee you that if there was a rock moved on this project or a tree moved or whatever, Vance McGowan knew about it because he was here all the time during the project.
When the stream was put into a channelized section and straightened it lost a lot of its pool habitat. A lot of the spawning gravels have been flushed out of this system so that fish weren't spawning in here as much as they used to. So if we put the meanders back into the stream, we start to flatten out the slope, and we get a smaller particle size, which is more toward the spawning gravel end of the gravel spectrum there. So we should have more fish spawning in this channel. We're building more complex and deeper pool habitat than what was in the existing channel. We're recreating more of a natural balance that used to be in this stream.
In this part of the basin, coho and sockeye are extirpated, silver salmon are gone. Remaining fish here that were traditionally used as spring Chinook salmon and summer steelhead and bull trout, and all those populations are severely depressed. All three species are listed as threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. There's been a number of years where there just simply hasn't been fish for tribal members to practice their historic cultural subsistence fishery. Mr. McDaniel is the first one in this part of the basin to step up and open up his land for a project of this scope. The tribes are real honored and I think privileged to be involved in active fish habitat and fish population restoration in their traditional homeland.
You all know we've dewatered the old channel, all the water's in the new channel except for a little bit to keep all the fish that are in there alive. And we'll be running 3 electroshockers down the channel side by side. We're going to start at the bottom end, work our way upstream.
They would have complete chaos if we weren't there because they'd have to have everybody who was zapping the fish, carrying the fish back up.
I thought it was pretty cool to be involved with like just helping out the species here.
Yeah, there's probably about 7 different species.
We are counting each of the fish by each species. After 5 passes, we processed 629 rainbow trout or steelhead smolts, 163 juvenile spring chinook parr, 419 mountain whitefish, 1,079 long-nosed dace, 60 umatilla dace, 52 bridge-lip suckers, 3 northern pike minnows, and 359 sculpins.
That big. I'm not sure what species. It's either probably a speckled or a long-nosed dace.
All this project is very well monitored, so they know exactly where the river was when we first got through with the project. They know where it is now. They know how deep the channels are. They know how fast the riffles are running. It's not a shot in the dark deal. They really are working hard on this project.
Another benefit is we could be raising the water table in this whole area. So, you know, in the past they used to try to push the channel way off to the side in order to increase production for agriculture, but at the same time, a lot of times they ended up dropping the water table. So a lot of landowners are concerned about bank erosion. They see literally acres and acres of land erode every year. Sometimes you may have 20 or 30 feet of stream bank, and that's loss of pasture. And if the river is not in a state of balance, and if there's things that, you know, folks like us can do to assist them to regain the stream stability but still, you know, allow them to make a living off the land, and you know, then it helps everybody.
I grew up in this all my life with my dad. He was a contractor for the Forest Service and then some of the mills out of the Pendleton area. And it's what I love to do, and it's rewarding to be able to put something in, a structure like this in, and then come back and see how it's functioning, you know. And it's always amazing to me how fast it comes back 6 months to a year after you finish a project. You can't even hardly tell you've done one. I think it's the wave of the future. I think we're going to see a lot more of it, you know. Restoration is obviously a big part of everybody's life, and the benefits from it are priceless.
Ooh, that was a good one. I've been very happy with the project, and I've been amazed at how fast it took for the fishing to recover, and for it to get to be fun to fish, and for it to get to where there was a chance to catch a pretty nice rainbow. And if you didn't catch a big one, well, it was just lots of fun waters, lots of fun drifts to put a fly on. And then the first spring, why, we saw several steelhead spawning in it. And so I don't know, I really like what's happened. I really like what's happened.
Some of the most critical habitat is on private land, and even though there's plenty of fish and wildlife habitat on the Forest Service land, some of the critical spawning areas are on private land, some of the critical Summer rearing is on private land, and winter rearing habitat is on private land. So private landowners need to be a big part of this whole restoration picture in order for us to restore these runs in these upper Columbia River tributaries.
My experience with anything on the land is if you are willing to give it some tender loving care, why it just changes almost immediately. I feel just, I can't say how lucky I feel that I can go home at night and put on my waders and come back down here in 15 minutes, I'm fishing in a darn good trout stream.
You got to get a little creative on the ranch nowadays to be able just to make it. Diversity is the answer, and that river project fits into that because we try to do our very best for the land, and the grass, the water, the country, the wildlife, it all is part of the whole big picture. They all belong here, and we have to work with the whole picture to make it work in the end.
The Nichols project is not unlike many other properties in the Grand Ronde Basin. Historically, the river was straightened to make room basically for farming or railroads, highways. In straightening the river, they didn't completely understand what that would do to the biologic function of the area. And so when this river was straightened, it increased the speed of the water running through the area. The increased velocity causes it to erode and to downcut, and so it basically strips all the diversity out of that system. This drawing sheet shows a portion of the river that was being worked on. This light lines that kind of goes straight through here is the old channel or the pre-project channel, and then these lines through here is the re-meandered river channel. So when we go back in there and we put meanders back into this river, we create areas where there are pools, where there are riffles, deeper water, shallower water. And so this creates environments that are extremely diverse for differing types of biologic organisms, be they fish or be they the food that the fish survive on. Some of these other features, these are large wood features, be it root wads or log veins, and then these other symbols represent the rock features that help with the erosion control to help keep that river in place until it stabilizes itself. This is a detail of the root wad. We place that in the stream to do two things. One, the woody material provides the biological matter to start the food chain with macroinvertebrates, invertebrates, fish, and the root wad also is a flow habitat feature. Basically, when the water flow comes in down the channel and it hits the tree, it goes around that, and as that water goes around that tree, it goes faster, it speeds up right in the vicinity of that tree, and so it actually will dig a scour hole around the root wad, which is a beautiful place for fish to hold up. And so with those natural meanders, as that water moves back and forth, it has areas of slower water, areas of faster water. We're reconnecting it to the floodplain, we're raising groundwater, we're increasing the ability for wetlands to grow, and even increasing a water source for all the riparian zone plants, for trees and everything. And so we're creating a more rich environment for bugs and amphibians and fish.
The The river project was pretty amazing to me since I was gone, the duration of it mostly. I left when it was all on paperwork and I saw what they were going to do and heard what they were going to do, and I just got back and seeing it is unreal. I feel like that lesson taught to me is that you're always planning for the next generation, and you're always planning for the best for the future of the land, your family, everything. It's not just a business, this is holding on to something that is irreplaceable.
There used to be silver salmon runs and king salmon runs, and all of those are gone. It's a big deal if someone finds a king salmon in this river now. We're going to be bringing that habitat back that those fish need, and we're also going to be producing places for the insects that those fish dwell on.
Salmon and steelhead have been on the decline for some time. And if we can recreate habitat features on the landscape that promote their recovery and survival, that's the real motivation. So it's a little piece of the whole, a little piece of this larger effort that the region is undertaking to restore those species. But locally, this is a large impact. This is 4,000 feet of channel that used to be continuous riffle, but that is now diverse, complex habitat for salmon and steelhead.
Then here's actually a steelhead fry. Most of these are going to be pretty small. Yeah, we're going to take lengths and weights on these. Okay. You can see silvery, you can see the par marks.
This is our fish salvage crew. This is our core group of people who we requested their assistance some months ago. So I got together with Jeff Yankee at ODF&W. Assisting Jeff is a biologist from the Confederated Tribes Umatilla Indian Reservation and biologists from the Nez Perce tribe. Those three groups being our core group of biologists, removing fish from the old channel, putting them in the new channel before we close the old channel up.
These trucks just came in with these aerated coolers in them that have oxygenated water that they put to fish, and they've shocked these fish out of these back eddies, the alcoves that are left over from the old channel. They shock them and net them and then put them into aerated buckets, put them into these trucks, bring them down here to this process station. Oh, there's something. Oh, there's one. Wow, check that out.
And lots of sculpin.
So we bring them down here, and the biologists identify them in their species. They also take some scale samples for aging. They're measuring them for weight and size. 3 salmon is in there, isn't it?
Yeah, these two are salmon. That's a little Omicus rainbow.
I'll be darned.
But yeah, those are Chinook salmon.
Those are Chinooks. And the kids here, all volunteers, have come in. They're helping out. Plus, they get to learn a lot while they're doing it. So it's nice to plant that in these young folks so that maybe in the future they'll get a chance to be involved with some of this one way or another. Then the fish go right back into the river in this eddy over here, and hopefully they'll work their way back upstream, and by the time we're done fixing these alcoves, they'll be able to move back into a healthy stretch of river and reestablish themselves. So that's kind of where we're at.
And it's so awesome. I feel so lucky this is happening here. Jeff Yankee, the fish biologist that is in charge of making sure the fish are transported. When we started this morning, he got us all in a circle and explained to everyone the tribes and which role everyone would have. And when he started, he said, basically, you're witnessing the rebirth of a river.
When the Grand Ronde Model Watershed called and said, do you want to do this? We said we do, but we said we don't want to deal with bureaucrats. We don't want to deal with agencies. You do that, and we will participate and cooperate with the project as far as having folks come visit and see it, talk to people. That's it. And they were good with that, and I trusted them.
Our in-water work window starts on the 1st of July.
They've done all the permitting, they did all the engineering, all the meetings, talked to all the permit people.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, you bet.
So I think Kobe Minton has worked, he's dedicated, and he's frustrated at times, and I'm thankful it's him and not us. So it's been easy.
Chinook. It's pretty exciting to go through these little pockets of water that are left over from the old channel and pull out all these different fish. There's sculpin and dace and whitefish, rainbow trout, steelhead, and then the Chinook salmon. And to see the Chinook and the numbers that we've seen today has been really exciting. I had no idea that we had this many small Chinook in this river that have a possibility in the future of coming back here to spawn someday, we hope. And if that ends up being the case, it's all worth it.
We're fortunate enough to have funding sources in this region that'll help pay for that. Those being Bonneville Power, the other major contributor being Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board.
Well, our overall program is upwards of $200 million a year. Probably half of that, or nearly half of that, is on the ground work, most of which is habitat restoration.
Our mission in basic terms is to make investments that benefit the environment, benefit the local economy, and benefit communities. And where we can demonstrate where those investments really hit that triple bottom line, we feel really good, because we know that we're doing more than just improving water quality or improving habitat for fish, that we're strengthening local communities. We're providing resources for local contractors. We're helping support jobs in local communities.
This is the first step of the 1,000-mile journey, really. Every curve that we put in this river gives something else a chance at life. It makes the ecosystem better, makes the environment better, makes the world better. Every single curve, every rock that gives a fish a place to rest behind, in front of, it makes a tremendous difference. And it's a life. And what we're doing is promoting life.
Our kids will be the 5th generation on this place. And I hope that if we ever get a chance to look down from wherever and see things in the future, that I get to see the 8th, 9th, 10th generation are still making it happen. And you know, everything that you can do to make that possible for them is just that much better.
How do I pass on what our values are to future generations, 3, 4, 5 generations? And this river project will do that, because they'll know that we value wildlife, and we value the river's health, and we value the native grasses that we're planting. And so many generations from now, they'll look back and say, Craig and Liza valued this piece of property, and they were part of this project in improving it. And that is really important to me.
All of us at the Grand Ronde Model Watershed are proud to work with great people like the Nichols and the McDaniels. Still, a lot of work remains.
Here at the Wallalaban Nez Perce Homeland Project, where Nez Perce people come annually to celebrate the salmon, we're implementing a salmon recovery project as well. And these projects don't need to be big to be meaningful. All these projects work toward salmon and steelhead population recovery.
Maybe a restoration project could happen on your land. Why not give us a call?